Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis, and it's time for another edition of Comic Book Roundtable. And I have two guests with me tonight. I'm supposed to have a third. We're having problems getting Tylox the Mighty on. So I apologize for that. We'll keep working to try and figure out how to get you on. If you're not on tonight's show, I'll talk with you either after the show or later on the week, and we'll figure out how to explain to get you on the show, so we can have you here and talk some comics with us. The invite's floating around out there. I'm not sure exactly how to explain how to get to it, because it seems like everybody gets to the show a different way from each other. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, we're gonna go off the show. I have with me tonight, I have Comics, and I have Sergeant America. How's it going, guys?
Good.
I'm
Going
dying.
Yeah, Mike there's got the creeping crud, so we'll see how long he lasts. If you suddenly see him nodding off or whatever, don't worry.
Yeah.
You don't need to call 911. He's just, his medication's kicked in, so it's all good.
Yeah, I'm pastier than normal today.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right into this week. Let's jump right in with the Marvel books. We'll talk some Marvel books. I know there's some Spider-Man books or whatever hanging out there that we're gonna talk about and whatnot. And I don't have any Marvel books this week. You know, I'm one of those people, I guess.
Oh,
So
boy.
I will listen to you guys talk about Marvel, and I'll ask lots of questions. So what
Do
do
you
you
want
guys
to go
want to
first?
I got Superior Spider-Man.
Sweet.
Oh, my wonderful lighting situation here. It's an excellent issue where they start out with Cyborg Superman being hunted down by Karn, who is the entity who's killing Spider-Man throughout the multiverse. And so this also now plays into this multiverse idea where, you know, they're bringing in all these different Spider-Man, Spider-Man India, Spider-Man Noir, Six-Armed Spider-Man, the Superior Spider-Man, Assassin Spider-Man, Spider-Girl, Spider-Monkey, and Cyborg Spider-Man. So it was a nice little team up. They find out there's more killers than just the guy with the diving helmet, and go. It's a great interaction with all the Spider-Man. You get a taste of how everybody is. This guy who's hunting them down is just a major badass, so they have to figure out how they're going to beat him. They do go into a second storyline. It was a $5 book, so there's also a pickup story in here, and it explains this guy's family lineage, that they are a family who hunts down people with a spider totem. And so this plays back into some old Spider-Man with the totem powers, that it wasn't a science experiment. There's some kind of either spider god or spider great entity who is getting all these different spider people spider powers. And it explores the family who hunts them and what that means. So it was a very excellent issue with that.
So with the Superior Spider-Man, because I'm reading Amazing right now, this is
Yeah.
a different universe where he's just continued to be Spider-Man, obviously.
This one, no, because they say it's the 616 Spider-Man. But it's when he went forward into time to 2099,
Mm-hmm.
and the 2099 Spider-Man was there,
Mm-hmm.
and I think because of that, it threw off, you know, for whatever reason. And I'm trying to still figure that out. Is so, you know, did that create a dual, you know, universe? Is it supposed to be slightly moved into that time frame, or what?
Mm-hmm.
Because at no point do they even talk about the Amazing Spider-Man. So
Mhm.
that's where I'm trying to figure out how all these link in together.
Are you reading Amazing?
No, I'm one of the Superior fans. So
Oh, yeah. Well, so like basically in Amazing right now, what is basically going on is he's trying to get his identity back. Because if you're reading that, Octo has been doing all these different things that Peter would do.
yeah,
And so the main story, I don't know, or lack thereof, in Amazing right now is him going around to people going, okay, what happened a while ago? That wasn't me. And so maybe that's why in that it's the way it is.
So the Superior Spider-Man is a mini that has to do with the Spider-Verse, or is it just a one-shot that has to do with the Spider-Verse? I'm confused. Or is it literally an ongoing? They've started it back up again, even though.
no, there is a checklist in back, and so the checklist is Superior number 32 and then Edge of Spider-Verse 1, Edge of Spider-Verse 2, Superior 33, Edge of Spider-Verse 3, Edge of Spider-Verse 4, Amazing number 7. So it does pull
So
into that.
Superior Spider-Man never ended,
It did, but there.
but
I think
they picked it back up again for.
yeah, for the
this whole-
storyline. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and so it looked like you only get. Yeah, it looks like this is the last Superior,
You,
and then this whole thing ends with Amazing Spider-Man number 8.
not to be critical of the whole Spider crossover thing, but this
Yeah.
obviously I'm not getting it, and this is one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
Because I remember back in the day, Web of Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, when they started running stories that were crossing over, you'd get 2 for each of the, one in Amazing Spider-Man, one in Web of Spider-Man, and one in Spectacular Spider-Man at the time, and you get 6 issues that way. That frustrated the daylights out of me because I wasn't really reading all of those Spider-Man titles at the time, and if you couldn't skip them. Because if you skipped it, there literally was huge chunks of the story that were just gone. There'd be people dead or missing, and you'd have no idea what happened, so you had to go back and get the book anyway. And this sounds a lot like that, huh?
Well,
Yeah.
no, it's not necessarily, because Amazing really hasn't. No, Amazing hasn't even really got into this yet. It's still him kind of dealing with getting his identity back, dealing with Felicia, things like that. I imagine once that happens, if they're smart, they'll pull like a Batman during Night of Owls, where you could just get that. You don't have to get anything really. I mean, they won't tell you that explicitly.
Right.
But you can just get that, and you won't be missing out on anything if they're smart.
But the last Amazing that you read, that was number 6, wasn't it? Do you know offhand?
I don't, but I believe it was.
All right, because I think that 7 and 8 will tie in, and because it doesn't have 6 in here.
But do you feel right now that you would have to read any of the other ones to get what you got out of Superior, or do you think you could just read Superior?
I mean, I read the Noir, and I don't know that you're missing anything by not reading Superior, but you get to know, I guess, a little bit about the characters, and that might be the only extra thing. So
yeah.
No, they don't have Gwen Stacy, Spider-Man in here, so
I'm critical of that for another reason, because one, is this necessary? I get that they're trying to make as much money as possible out of that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they don't make it necessary at the same time too, because comic books, especially Amazing Spider-Man's a $4 book.
Well, I can see doing it in some sense. You want to tell this bigger story, this bigger universal kind of a story. You want to bring in, Spider Monkey, because Spider Monkey is an important character. So you need a book to bring him into, and so that's why you have all these other tie-ins. If they're tie-ins, it's okay, in my opinion. Tie-ins adds to the story, but isn't a linchpin of the story. A crossover, if these are crossovers, then it's a linchpin to the story, and it forces you to have to read. It's like the Battle of the Atom story that was in X-Men for a while. I was just simply reading the unadjective X-Men book, and I wasn't getting the other stuff. And so that story, that was 2 or 3 issues that was a complete waste for me to buy because it meant nothing because I didn't have the pieces to add to it. Like I said, I don't have a problem with tie-ins near as much as I do crossovers, where it forces you to go and pick up 2 or 3 random issues of a title that you're not interested in collecting. You had no intentions of collecting, so now you got these odd whatever.
And just so no one thinks it's a Marvel thing, DC does it all the time too.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Supergirl has been messed up at least twice in the New 52 run, where it's forced you to go and buy the other super person books, which I had no interest in doing. So I literally my daughter was reading Supergirl. She quit reading it once that the crossovers hit because she's like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm done. And just quit reading it. So not picking on Marvel. I mean, I was just saying in general, crossovers frustrate me. Tie-ins I don't mind because then I get to make the choice of whether or not I want to get it and still have a story. But
I guess I could talk about Daredevil.
Awesome.
Loved this issue. It was probably my comic book of the week, to be honest. Did either of you read the book by Stephen King called Salem's Lot by any chance?
Yeah.
This was just a love letter to that. And I forgot what the other name. Do you remember that movie where the kids? I don't know if I'm my camera's gonna do this justice, but where the kids look like that, they have blonde hair and their eyes glow.
The Village?
What was it?
The Village?
No, that's the one with Joaquin Phoenix that was terrible.
Children of the Corn?
No, but
No.
it starts out Salem's Lot, so it starts out.
Right, I know what you're talking about. I just can't remember the title.
Yeah, someone in the comments, please look that up. But it starts out with this guy appearing outside this kid's window, like in Salem's Lot, and the kid invites him in and all that, and it just has that really kind of cool, tense thing to it. You later find out it's the Purple Man, and that's one thing I like about Daredevil, is it's doing what the New 52 should have done. It's taking all these fringe characters and making them, and kind of molding them into something new and interesting. So he's kind of got this Pied Piper type feel to him, but it's got a Salem's Lot chill to it. And by the end of it, the kids turn on him, and they become essentially those kids with the glowing eyes, and they're going around and controlling people and making them do what they want. And you're kind of it's more about them than anything else. Daredevil barely appears in this. I really liked it. I think it's one of those unsung heroes in Marvel that no one talks about really anymore.
The Daredevil book?
Yeah.
Do you think it lost some of that steam because of the price change?
Yeah, because it's still the same quality-wise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, another thing I liked about it when it was in the last run, the $2.99 run, he went to Latveria and didn't meet Doctor Doom. Like, that's how low level he is.
Yeah.
Doctor Doom didn't give him the time of day. He met a general. Doctor Doom, I think if he appears in it, they aren't together at all. And so I like that they're taking what, in my opinion, is a B hero, sorry Daredevil fans, and making him be around C and D characters and making it a good story. I mean,
Sure.
The last villain he went up against was the Owl, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're worried about getting bogged down in Spider-Man and stuff like that, there is an alternative in Marvel.
Yeah.
That's my sales pitch.
Yeah. The book has always sounded good, obviously. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm not picking it up. Partially out of principle, when they changed the prices, it was like, yeah, no, okay. And of course, when I decided to jump back on the run, it was during that awful him going out to Kentucky or whatever, and the whole Halloween character.
Yeah, that was a low point.
Yeah, and that's of course when I started picking up and went, I'm done. So yeah,
I recommend people going out and picking up those early trades of this run, though. That's when the book was solid.
City of Lost Children, is that what it was called?
I don't know. I'll look it up.
Yeah, I don't remember. So what other Marvel books we got?
I got the Thor number 25 God-sized issue. This is Thor, God of Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
I picked it up to see if they would talk about him losing Molinar. This is still dealing with the Thor that we know, King Thor, the old man, and then young Thor.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends up, it has the granddaughters of King Thor, the old Thor, reading through books in the library, so they start telling stories. And one was the origin story of Malekith, the the dark elf that's got his face painted separate. Also in the last Thor movie, he was the bad guy.
Right.
So it was good. I mean, it was an interesting story about how he rose to power and who he is, and so it explained the characters. CDC, did you get the name?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
That's it.
No,
You were partially right. It's Village of the Damned.
See, I knew it was something Village. I just couldn't think of what. Okay.
I liked that movie too. Sorry, I want to hear. That would have eaten at me. So.
Yeah, so that's what I figured you had there. So, after reading the story about Malekith, Thor makes a big thunder boom, so they decide to stop reading. They go to a different story about young Thor facing the frost giants, and it's they're trying to raise Loki's father, Lottie, from the dead, and so they have his ice skull, and it's right after he's been killed by Odin and all that, and Thor puts it into it, but the skull sinks to the bottom, but you can see there's tendrils coming out. And the three granddaughters are like, should we tell young Thor, should we, I guess they can time travel or something, and let him know about it? And they decide not to. And then another book comes falling off the shelf, and it's wrapped in chains, and they bust it open to see what it is, and they see a woman who is getting Thor's hammer, which I guess is on the moon, and then they show you a nice double-page spread of a bunch of old Thor villains, and Loki's on here, the Enchantress, Uluk, and some of the other ones. I mean, it's just some great enemies from old to modern. It was that Minotaur. I had jumped back onto this one. Sleepy mentioned it a couple times on your round table, and Thor comes and he puts his hand on the book so the girls don't read anymore, and you can see when he dusts his hand over it, it says the unworthy. And they mentioned just briefly that Nick Fury whispers something in Thor's ear that makes him unworthy, and that's why he can no longer carry the hammer.
Whoa.
And that's just where they leave it. And so they said,
So this is the issue, in other words.
I think it's more with the end of the other series that's going on right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I had heard a couple of things. Either it was going to just happen in the book, or they were going to make it an Axis thing, like he goes and does something that makes him unworthy in that.
Yeah. Because the next issue will be Thor 1, and it's just Thor, and it's going to be her. That's evidently where they're kicking off at. And this was a $5 book. So, but yeah, lots of pages. It was very good stories, different artists for the different stories. So I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I've always had a weird relationship with Thor. I've always kind of never hated the character, but never really loved the character at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I don't think having someone else be worthy, like Beta Ray Bill or whoever this new one is going to make me go, okay, now this is where I'm going to... It's not... The fact it's the mythology of it never really drew me in, and really, I think if you talk to fans from 5-10 years ago, that was the case until movies really kind of brought him back, especially Loki. But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, I have a ton of Thor trades on my shelf, and the thing I always liked is they keep retconning it because it's like it's all mythos. So even if they tell you something, this wasn't really how it is. We lied to you. Here it is. And you can love it or hate it. I know sometimes I hated it when they would do that with Captain America. Like, Bucky wasn't really just a sidekick fun kid. He was really this dirty assassin. And here's the real story about Bucky. And so they did the same things with Cap and Thor. They kept changing who he is, how he keeps getting the different weapons, or what makes him worthy, what makes him not. And I like that. I like all these different takes.
That leads to kind of an interesting topic, because that's called in story retconning, where you kind of go, actually, this is the way it really happened,
right? And
then you go do that and you rewrite the history. Would you prefer that or reboot?
I kind of hinted on Travis's cues that I would go for a full I mean, you really only get a full taste of 10 years. After 10 years, I think it's all open to change. So.
So Mike thinks every 10 years they should just flush the toilet and start all over. Yeah,
because it'll never be.
You're not a popular person with hardcore fanboys, Mike. That's all I got to say. Because that would be.
Never joined a message board.
I was gonna say, most of us haven't recovered from DC yet, let alone anything else. So every 10 years, knowing it's gonna go down the tubes. I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, with some things, like in the case of Thor or anything like that. That's a pretty easy workaround. You get new writers, they decide they want to tell different stories. It's pretty easy to go, oh, that was a story we told you then. Well, this is a story we're telling you now, because it is, to some degree, especially when it comes to their origins and whatnot, it's either gospel or fiction, depending on what your faith is, I guess. So that works. That works. I don't know that works, unless the story is always going to be told in a fashion where somebody's telling you the story.
Yeah.
But most of these books aren't written in that way. They aren't written. Saga's written in a fashion that there's somebody from the Hazel's telling you about what happened when she was little, right? That's how the book is written. The narrator is telling you. So she could change the story at any point. Well, that was cute, but really I was bullshitting. This is what really happened. So they could do that there. But most of these books aren't told in a narrative fashion like that, though, right? So that would seem weird to suddenly. You could do it once or twice maybe, but it wouldn't be something that you could just kind of like. I mean, for some characters it makes sense, other characters it makes sense at all. You know, if it's a spy type character, if it was Black Widow, you could say, "Ha, that's the smoke screen we gave you. This is what I was really doing when you thought I was doing this fake espionage things. I was overdoing this." That makes sense. You could get away with that.
Yeah.
I don't know with Superman you can get away with, oh, that wasn't really Superman doing that. That was something. I don't know how you do that. So
you come up with mauve kryptonite.
Yeah.
To use a Canadian word. And this is a new kryptonite that when it hits him, he sees the truth. I will be writing Superman soon, so don't worry.
Awesome. Yeah. Look forward to burning your issues down like everybody else's.
But I'm just saying that there's always that device in a lot of comics. With Superman, that's one of them. They've come up with a new form of kryptonite. Then all of a sudden that makes it so that this story makes sense. And so I don't know. I think oftentimes, though, a good reboot is deserved. And I mean, I think we've all had reboots that we've hated.
Sure.
But we've also had ones where it's like that was needed badly. I would say in the New 52, Wonder Woman was kind of becoming, if you were reading before that, was kind of becoming stale. And that's why I was such a proponent of the book when it went into the New 52. It's like, that's exactly how they should have handled this whole new universe. It's just let the writers go, I have an idea, let's do this. And so sometimes it's good. Other times, I'm not liking this new version of Stephanie Brown as much as I like the pre-New 52 one, so not to get into that. That's a different company. That's a different company.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of where I'm. I mean, in some cases, I don't think there needs to be a reboot. Just start telling a new story, and I mean, unless it's truly, utterly flying in the face of what was presented before it, don't you just kind of go along with it? Because there's no way they keep it all straight anyway. The continuity gets messed up to some degree, regardless, right? I mean, it's just I know they've got stacks and stacks of this is the continuity we got to try and stick within this, but it always gets fudged a little bit. Yeah. So I mean, unless it's completely flying in the face of whatever it was before, like if you just suddenly tomorrow start writing a serious Batman story and Batman's parents were never killed, that doesn't work, right? You have to explain why, because I mean that's the whole motivation behind the character. I mean, you have to explain it then, but as long as it's not flying in the face of that, some of that stuff can be fudged in between there. I mean, if you kind of have to accept it, how it is. I mean, some of the continuity stuff is maddening, but I don't know. You take it too serious, none of it works. After you get past about 12 issues, it starts to fall in on itself anyway. I think most books do. So.
Well, and if you just had it so that everything had to be canon, I think you'd be in big trouble. I think we would not have comic books right now because they would have told every story there has to be told. I don't think you would. I mean, I think you have to have the pillars. Batman's not going to all of a sudden pull out a gun and start shooting, things like that. But at the same time, you got to be able to stretch a little bit here and there, or at least reinvent the character here and there without getting too upset.
Sure.
Do you have any other Marvel?
Yeah, I had Elektra.
Oh, I liked the first couple issues, but I don't think it drew me in.
The first 5 had that beautiful watercolor, and this continues the storyline where they're being hunted by the Assassins Guild, but we get a new artist. It still works really well. The artwork is still very nice. It's not that, it's just not the watercolors it was before, and that was just beautiful. This I've enjoyed. I was, the first 2 pages I was being a little pissy, but once I got into it, how they framed in some of their art, like, this one just kind of shows, all the different assassins that were after them, Whiplash and whomever. It was just done nicely.
So is that a permanent change in artist?
I believe so. I think they just did. I think they just did the 5 for the trade, and now it's this new person. Sanchez, and like I said, Sanchez's art is Alex Sanchez. It's wonderful. I can like it for what it is. It's nice. And the story is just good. It's just, I don't know now if I want to continue along with assassins trying to just kill other assassins. I don't know how long the story is going to keep me interested.
Right.
So do you, obviously you think the art was a big draw to the book, but do you think that if this was just a one-time thing that you would like it wouldn't take away too much from the story. Because I remember in Green Lantern, started talking about that other company.
No, that's right. Yeah.
But they had a substitute artist, and for one issue, I remember, and people dropped the book because of that. So I was just wondering if it's that drastic of a difference. Because I remember.
No.
Okay.
I would say, with Alex Sanchez's art, I like it.
Like the She-Hulk issue, or the 2 issues we had.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It was radical.
The modern art issues.
Yeah.
The first 5 issues also had this other enemy who was eating people and gaining all their memories and powers, and I really liked that. But that's all done with. Yeah. And now it's just, all these different assassins coming at him, and Lady Deathstrike makes a deal to get powers, and so I mean it's still good, but how long do I really want that to be my main driving story? Is can I have 5 more issues of all these assassins coming at Elektra and this group of people that she's protecting? Yeah. It's a little bit like the movie Elektra.
Wow.
Which I liked, but I wouldn't want 2 movies.
Ouch.
I was going to say, no, I've always liked the character of Elektra, but I just remember thinking, God, there's going to be more to this book. Because I've always been a fan of the character. I've always felt like she would dress a lot differently if she was this master assassin, but it's a whole other story. Yeah, I don't know. So would you recommend the trade to some people?
The first trade, yeah. I mean, the first 5 issues, art was spectacular, storyline was great. This one, if I picked it up, I would have said, hey, this is fun. This is a lot of fighting, a lot of, intrigue, and art is really good. But, it's not as great of art, and the story is one step down, as of now. So...
that first arc was a beautiful looking book. I mean, that was definitely a big draw. Was the art? I read through 3, and then just missed out on picking it up because I didn't actually have it on my pull. But beautiful art and interesting story. But I could certainly see the fatigue of, like Mike's talking about, with the continued assassin assault. After a while, there's got to be something more to it than just that, I would think. So
like finding about Elektra herself, what her struggles are like, what she's like as a person, finding out. No, action. Let's just stick with that.
As long as she's still sticking size in people's throats, it's all okay. That's right.
And the first 5 was about it. I mean, they explored more about her family, her past, and all that. So, I mean, everything you wanted, you got in the first 5 issues. Now, I worry. So I'll collect a couple more and see how it goes.
Yeah. I have 2 other Marvels.
Awesome.
One of them I'm not sure I want to talk about. But,
okay.
This one real quick, I'll just say DaCosta, I'm with you. This is awesome. All new X-Men. I like the tribute cover.
Yeah, that's cool. That's back to Uncanny X-Men. What issue is that? Do you remember what issue that is?
No, I have the issue, but I don't remember.
So do I.
But
oh well.
I was just instantly. That's instant recognition when you see it. But essentially what happened is they came across this new mutant in the last issue that exercised their power and sent them all over the place. Beast is in Latveria, and he finally figures out that he's in Latveria. First he thinks he's in Turkey for a long time, and he's like, why is everyone looking at me weird? Iceman gets sent to the Mole Man area and all that, and he's like, I can't see anything. What's going on? And Jean Grey, for some reason, gets sent to a completely different universe. She gets sent to the Ultimate Universe, and she meets up with Miles Morales. That's how I guess he's going to be brought into this universe. And it was so funny because I loved that she had this realization as she was sitting there. She's like, so if I'm not in my time and I'm not in my universe, I couldn't be more lost right now. I was like, they aren't addressing that as much in this book as I'd like, the fact that they aren't in their own time anymore. It's kind of just, this is the way it is. You would think that they would come across things that would be like think about like 10, 20 years ago, come across a cell phone from now. You'd be like, what? They didn't really do any of that with this, and I wanted more of that. that was the closest I've had with that, is her having that realization.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not anywhere close to home right now. And she's kind of learning about the Jean Grey of the Ultimate Universe and things like that. And she's kind of like, oh, okay, so this one's not quite as messed up as me. But, you know, I like, it was, you know, as someone that's always kind of found Jean Grey as kind of what's the big deal with her character.
I don't like her character.
I don't hate her. I just want to know what the hype is. But I like the fact that she kind of was the only one that got analytical about it. Everyone else was kind of like, how do I get out of this? She's kind of like, this is really a messed up situation. But, yeah, I'm with the Costa. It's it's the only X-Men I'm reading, though. I don't know if any of the other ones are any good. I guess I can talk about this. Since neither of you got...
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
The Gwen Spider-Girl, Spider-Woman, Spider-Man,
Well,
Spider
see,
whatever. Spider-Person.
I have to preface this that I'm a huge Gwen Stacy fan. I always felt like she was way better than Mary Jane as a girlfriend and all that. And so I was always a big fan, and it always drove me nuts that everyone got back from the dead but her. So when that was announced, I was like, it's about time. I felt like this was very generic, and I know a lot of people are calling for a series to come out of this. I don't really see where they could... They didn't draw in a lot. I like the fact that she used her dad's police, connection because he's a police officer to kind of... I could see that being used later, her kind of going through the police station, looking stuff up to track someone down, stuff like that. But to me, her being in a band and all that, it just felt like they saw Ms. Marvel's success and said, let's try it here too. And they didn't quite duplicate it as well. I would say it was average at best. Yeah. Go ahead and crucify me.
Well, no. What does she provide? What does that character in that book provide that like Spider-Woman isn't going to provide?
Pretty much.
I mean, to a large degree. I mean, obviously they're different people. I mean, I'm not, not being that, But I just don't. If there's something isn't something uniquely special about introducing this character. If she's just a female spider person, for an issue, I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't see the excitement behind that. I guess that we've all seen. That's out there. There's quite a bit of excitement around her being them, doing this. And that X-Men was Uncanny X-Men 139. I was gonna say 129, but I knew that wasn't right. Thank you, Mac Hammer, for letting us know that. I knew somebody in the comments would come up with what cover that was for the X-Men.
Yeah, but I have to also say, though, that people may like it, but have to understand that I went in with high expectations for it. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on that, too.
She looks cool on the cover. I mean, as far as her costume and stuff, that looks cool. I mean, that's attractive to my eye to see that kind of a spider person out there. I'd be okay with that just because of the fact she looks cool in it. So.
And I also felt like they kind of just did a lot of the exposition very quickly and sloppily. I felt like they could have really, because she's essentially blamed for Peter Parker's death, spoiler alert, and so that's why everyone's against her as a character. That's why J. Jonah Jameson doesn't like her. That's why the police aren't a fan of her. And the only cool thing towards the end, and that's not even the big spoiler, was the big spoiler at the end. What she does differently than Spider-Man, and I thought that was an interesting angle. And if they went with that for a series, I might stick around if they made it a $2.99.
As long as you're not telling me that she snapped Peter Parker's neck because he fell off of a building, that's all I ask.
No, she threw him off a bridge, cackling.
Okay.
No, no, he. Should I spoil this all the way?
No, I mean, no, that's okay. You don't need to. You don't need to. I'm just being smart, because I know that's not what happens, but that would have been really. I don't know what, but they broke his neck. Why?
I would. Okay, if they turn this into a series, I would at least pick up the first 3, but it would have to do more.
Couldn't have been that bad then.
No.
It was average. No. Okay, I get it.
I will trash a comic much later. Don't worry.
Okay. So I'm just kind of watching the comments go by, and Sherpanaut has an interesting comment that I guess, like on Twitter, he announced, Sherpanaut, I don't know how you knew this, that all new Ghost Rider is going to be canceled at issue 12. I guess Axel Alonso and Tom Baruch both came on and tweeted saying that wasn't true. But I guess it is true. The only reason they were saying it wasn't true is because the creators didn't know about it. And I guess Rich Johnson, who, for those of you who don't know, he's basically the brain behind Bleeding Cool. I guess he had the information, and he was just sitting on it waiting for the creators to have been told privately before they aired it publicly. So it doesn't sound like that's what happened. It sounds like it got aired publicly before those guys found out that it was getting canceled. And I think that sounds unfortunate because, I mean, I think that, I mean, I wasn't reading it, but I was interested in at some point picking it up just because I kept hearing people talk about the fact that it was actually a pretty good kind of a youthful, you know, teen, young adult kind of a book where, you know, it was kind of like Blue Beetle is what it sounded to me like it was being described as
Wow.
the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle, old Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
You know, where he's trying to be this superhero, but at the same time, you know, he's got all these family commitments that are still really important to him that he needs to take care of, and so, you know, he's having to deal with that kind of stuff too. Which to me, that's made it sound like it was an appealing book, and it sounds to me like me, I didn't pick it up, and not enough other people picked up, and that's why it's getting canned. I don't think it's getting canned because it's a bad book. I just don't think that. I think some of us didn't see past the fact he wasn't riding a motorcycle. You know, so that's why I didn't pick it up. You know, so I don't know, but interesting.
I would prefer a horse, but.
And in a crappy way. Oh yeah, there you go, the old one.
Yes.
All dressed in white.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that run of the book. I actually own that. Yeah. So you know, what a crappy way to find out that you've been fired though. By Twitter. That kind of sucks.
That's kind of scummy of them to publish that early.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly how that all transpired and whatnot, but yeah, bummer. Any other Marvel news? Anything else that we know?
They're delaying the Fantastic Four movie, and they're going to try and do the filming for the Deadpool. Is what I saw last.
Oh yeah, that's right. Since last time we met, Deadpool has been officially announced. It has a director and everything. It's greenlit, I guess.
Yeah.
The latest thing I heard is the shocker that it's going to be PG and not rated R. Of course, it's not going to be rated R. I mean, as much as it makes sense in some way for it to be rated R with how gory it is and how, quite frankly, how crude Deadpool can be. I mean, you could really go to town if you made a rated R version, but you aren't going to cut out that much of your viewing audience by making it rated R. That makes no sense at all. So
anyone that thinks it should be rated R, I suggest they go look at the money Kick-Ass 2 made, and you'll get your answer as to why this is it's PG and not PG-13.
I don't know.
Okay.
I just saw the PG rating. I don't know if they defined it. I'm sure it'll be PG-13. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
How do you make a Deadpool? Unless you're gonna tone the gore down.
Yeah. Well, unless you make it so he doesn't have eyes and a mouth. I'm not even a Deadpool fan, and I was like, dude, I'm just so pissed.
That was awful. Yeah.
Well, it just makes me wonder or worry about the Fantastic Four that's even getting bumped further. I mean, with as far along as what it should be.
Nobody's interested in the Fantastic Four. The only people who are interested in the Fantastic Four are hardcore Fantastic Four fans. I hate to say it, but that's the case. Who reads that book? Who reads Fantastic Four right now? I know there's people who are buying it, but who reads it and talks about it? I only know of one person who picks up Fantastic Four, and that's because he just owns all the Fantastic Four. So he picks it all up. I don't know that he's even reading it. But, you know, and that's unfortunate. Now, do I think that's right? No, I don't think that's right. I mean, I think that the Fantastic Four should be one of Marvel's biggest books. It's one of the oldest superhero group books, period. It should be huge. There should be tons of weight behind it. And I don't know if there's not better weight behind it because the movie franchise is owned not by a Marvel subsidiary. I don't know. You know, because it's owned by Fox. I don't know if that's what it is or not. I don't know if they really are that, you know, behind the scenes manipulating stuff or not manipulating stuff. They don't want to invest anything in it because they don't own it all. I don't know. But the last two runs of that book have been frighteningly not good. So, unfortunately.
Yeah, because it's weird. Haven't they been shooting, or has that been baloney? What I've been seeing, like the Rock guy that sometimes appears on Twitter, and those horrendous Doctor Doom pictures that have been on. Are those real?
I think it's initial. Yeah, I think it's initial filming.
Yeah. I don't know. I used to like the Fantastic Four when I was younger, but I haven't read anything good from them since probably the 90s. my honest opinion. So
Yeah. So
I
I
picked
don't know.
up
Like I
some
said,
cartoons of it, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
mhm.
yeah, they could be good. They could easily be a good title. I just right now I don't know I don't know what's going on. But so
Charles
that's
Soule.
right. So them continuing to kick that to the back burner doesn't surprise me at all because I just don't think there's a lot of. I mean, I don't think there's a ton of people out there clamoring for that movie.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know. Would be great if they're good. They'd be all great if they were good, but chances are they're not going to be. But yeah. So any other? I don't think there's any other movie news kind of a thing and whatnot. We're what 2 or 3 weeks out from the premiere of the second season of Shield, right? Something like that.
The 23rd, yeah. So I think it's this next week.
Oh, this next week. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this Tuesday, I want to say. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll wait
So
and see. Yeah.
see what that's going to be like. I don't know.
You guys have made me really want to DVR that.
Oh.
I've never heard such a reception.
Well,
Than
Mike's been watching them all. I haven't. I couldn't finish the first season, so
tepid at best.
that's where I'm at. So, but I'll watch the first couple episodes of the second season just to see if it had some sort of epiphany and.
Yeah.
But,
I think they were held back too much by the movies. They had to get it timed with Winter Soldier.
No. Yeah.
Character development was interesting, and I read the Secret Warriors Nick Fury books. So, I mean, it ties into that where, Hydra and SHIELD and all those are going into each other. And so, I mean, it'll be very interesting to see if this all... as they jump into the second season and they start doing more exploration, I'm interested in seeing. Can they jump off? Can they be really exciting?
well, and full disclosure, I'm not a Shield fan in the first place. I mean, I don't like them in the comic book either. They don't interest me a whole lot. I love those old Silver Age Nick Furies that the hell's his name?
Doctor Strange?
No. The creator, the artist.
Steranko?
Yes. See, I love his work. I love those books for that. I love what he put out and produced there. But the idea of S.H.I.E.L.D. itself has never interested me. So a TV show about it, it's already for me as a viewer, it's already kind of a deal right up front just because it's not my bag. So when I say I'm not interested, you got to take that into consideration too. It's not my thing. So whatever.
Yeah. I liked S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra until I found out they were ripped off G.I. Joe.
Oh, nice.
It's the other way around. All right.
Yes. One has better toys though. Yeah. So let's move on to DC. Let's talk some DC stuff.
Okay.
So Mike can take a nap. We want to talk. You want to talk Eternal? Let's talk Eternal first.
Yeah.
Let's talk Eternal. With this cover that drives me crazy. This spoiler cover. Okay, so I'm looking at it on the screen. I can tell that's a motorcycle a little better now. But it is so weird because here's spoiler, here's her legs, but of course because of this line right here with the tire, her legs are severed off. I don't know. It just doesn't it look messed up? It looks messed up to me. I mean, I get what it's supposed to be, but then that silhouette of the motorcycle just, I don't know. It bothers me. But
have they done any better with her since I dropped it?
that's right. You don't read this anymore. Oh.
Spoil it all you want.
This is it. Well, it says right there, warning, spoiler ahead. This issue is exclusively spoiler.
Ah.
I mean, it is all Cluemaster, his plan of where he's got all these people at, messing Gotham up slowly but subtly. They're making all the street lights congest. They're making everybody's water back up. During like holidays and big TV events, they're making rolling blackouts hit the poor people and whatnot. Stephanie's hearing all this, and she's like, there's some big bad guy that you don't know exactly who he is, and he tells the clue master, you got to either you're dead or you got to kill your daughter, one of the two, because she's still not dead. And she's all dressed up as Spoiler. We have no idea. We get to see a little bit of history of her crashing her bicycle trying to go over a jump. Then later on in the book, she's running from Dad. Dad's chasing her down. He's throwing bombs at her and crap like that, trying to kill her and get rid of her, telling her, you know, we could have been an awesome team. I could have been Clue Master. You could have been Pointer. And she's like, Dad, Pointer's the name of a dog, you know. But, you know, trying to blow her up, and she's racing away from him, and he's like, I'm going to get you, I'm going to get you. She ends up suckering him out of Gotham, out onto the highways of the state, and she makes this jump. That's how it goes back to her jumping the bicycle. But she makes the jump. He gets arrested, and he's like, "You can't arrest me. I've got all of Gotham PD in my pocket. You know, this is no big deal." Of course, they're not in Gotham. He's being arrested by the state police, so he's screwed. And so he's off to jail. That's me glossing over the book very quickly. But that's kind of the basics of the book. She basically nails her dad, but she doesn't have enough information to really tell Batman what's going on. But she's been given basically the idea to hunt Batman down now and let him know, because the bad guy that all you see is him silhouette just says we got to make sure she doesn't go to the bat with the information she has. So
yeah.
But yeah, the art in it is awesome. The art in it is by Clark. Andy Clark, and I'm a big fan of his art, and he does a great job in it. The dude needs just to get a solid book and whatnot, but I like the Spoiler costume. You know, she wears a mask that actually has a breather in it and stuff. And so it's kind of cool as far as that goes. And she's not all uber ninja. I mean, other than she rides a motorcycle in here, she's not. I mean, as combative as she looks there, she's not really like that in the book, but. Yeah. Still not giving a lot of personality to her, other than she's somebody who's willing to, take a risk. You kind of get that about her personality.
Here's what you got to understand. Probably my favorite hero in the DC universe is Stephanie Brown, and I waited 20 issues to get anything out of that. Dropped the book, moved it to trade, and then they start giving me what I wanted.
Exclusive. It's all just her. The entire book. I forgot that you dropped it. That's funny.
Well, I read this version, so it's...
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's no similarities there. Anyway.
It wasn't a bad issue. The art was great, and I like them listing, because they got to go through a laundry list of all these little... And I kind of like it when villains do that. Instead of just going for the big grand overkill, they're slowly screwing with all the little things that would agitate a city. You know, he's got all these kind of I don't know, they're not even D-list villains. They'd be like M-list villains, because their only power is to make the water back up in your toilet kind of thing. I mean, that's the kind of villains they are. It's like that's their exclusive, haha. So they've all been hired to do these little things. They're basically just slowly, making the entire city fester is what they're doing. That to me, that's kind of interesting. Whatever this grand plan the Clue Master and this other person has, this just whole kind of fester thing. That's kind of fun seeing these, like I said, villains that are just, really, they're not even, well, I think they're new villains. I don't think they're anybody that's ever been introduced before. Just kind of obscure, bizarre things and whatnot. So it was fun. It was good.
Cost to live in Gotham has to be so much cheaper than just across the river where Superman protects, because the crapper never attacks you in the in that section of town, but when you're living in Gotham, the crapper attacks you every other day.
Yeah. Let's see. I was trying to look to see if I could find some of the names of some of the guys. I can't right offhand. The Ratcatcher, the Prankster.
The Rat King. Those are all. Yeah, I've heard of all of them.
Yeah, they're called this kind of obscure kind of guys. I'm trying to think of what some of the others are. Yeah. Signal Man.
Never.
Yeah, he's great. It's this picture of this guy, and he's in this cape, and this bright yellow cape and red suit, but he's sitting in front of a bunch of monitors, and literally all he's doing is causing gridlock. He is slowly changing the timing of all the lights so everything hits red at the same time and stuff and whatnot. And,
yeah. They're more annoyance than they are
Yeah. But you could put them all together. It just, like I said, they're timing the rolling blackouts in the poor parts of town to make sure all the televisions quit, like during the big game, when the big games, sporting events, or if it's a holiday. So of course people are, I want to watch the big game and they're all pissed off. Yeah, just kind of creating all this agitation and whatnot. So
that was created by Buffalo Wild Wings, man.
Yeah, that's right. Going into overtime. Product endorsement. Anyway.
Yes.
So yeah. So you guys read any of the Future End stuff?
A bunch.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Any you want to talk about? I'm hearing that Superman Wonder Woman's Future End one shot had an awesome ending. Was that tied into
Wonder Woman?
Was that tied into Wonder Woman? Was Wonder Woman first?
It started out so awesome. It really did. It kind of felt like
Carlos. That's Carlos, by the way, that was saying that the Superman Wonder Woman was good.
They essentially take the character that we've gotten in the series that we've been reading thus far almost to its logical conclusion, where she essentially sets up this fortress as war, and she has all these famous people throughout history kind of as her lieutenants, like Napoleon's one of her lieutenants and all of that, and she's in this continuous war. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, this is just a really good one-shot. I know it's meaningless at the end of the day, but it's just kind of a fun story. And she eventually, I don't know, it depends on what angle you're looking at it, she eventually kind of turns on the war powers and gets that horn helmet and all that. And so you're like, I don't know where this is going. And I was getting kind of towards the end, and I was like, there's not that many pages left. They have to wrap this up quickly. You get to it, and then Superman appears, and he's in this all-space-looking suit, kind of, I forgot what that superhero's name was, but where the suit kind of looks like it's outer space. And you realize it's a two-parter. And so you had to go pick up Superman Wonder Woman to get the rest of the story. And it's kind of like,
That's wrong.
Yeah.
It's a tie-in, not a crossover.
Yeah. Yes. And so Superman Wonder Woman might have been good. I didn't pick it up. So you got really half the story here.
Yeah, that's what I heard from Jenna Comic Book Girl on Twitter. She was pretty pissed off because, of course, she picked up the Wonder Woman and didn't pick up the Superman Wonder Woman tie either. Had no idea. The solicitations didn't say that you had to pick those up, and so you're left with part of a story. Yeah, that's pretty.
And if you're doing it the way you guys do it, where you order them
in advance, right? 2 months in advance,
you're done. You can't. There's no way you can. I guess you could go to a shop, but I don't know. It was. I think if you pick this up, go pick up the $2.99 version and just take the back of it and rip off like the back 3 pages, and you got a good comic here.
Right on. I've heard being all warlike and whatnot, huh? Right on.
Well, you get kind of the season of she's more seasoned in what she's doing.
Sure.
All that. It was like, what would we do if we took that Wonder Woman 5 years from now and really kind of explore?
So we pretty much are all kind of, at least I'm assuming we're all on the same page, and the fact is that we know reality is 5 years from now, these characters are not going to be like these characters that are here, right? That's right. Yeah. So you've read Wonder Woman all at this point, very much loyal fan of this current run of Wonder Woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that she would, 5 years from now, she's going to be hanging on to the mantle of war still?
No. I was actually going to put this out on Twitter. I can't wait for 5 years from now when we get all these tweets about how it's not like that and all these fans are disappointed.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. It's gonna be Davidus Raccoonus saying something wise ass 5 years from now, and that's it.
Yeah.
He will be
on a second.
He will be on top of that. But other than that, I'll kind of attached to that. This was a second part. The Justice League one was the second part of the Justice League United one. So I didn't know what had happened up to that point. But this gave me no desire to go back and pick it up because essentially what you had was Captain Atom at some point went crazy and really saw the fulfillment of his power. And so it's them trying to contain him on Mars, if I remember correctly.
Mm.
So, yeah, that was almost better because I got a conclusion out of it.
All right.
Than Wonder Woman, where it's just kind of, well, the story's not quite over, but you gotta. Which I think if they would have done that in the solicitations, I wouldn't have minded.
Right.
Too much.
I like the idea of Captain Atom kind of losing his.
Yeah.
That would be an exciting story.
Well, he essentially starts crushing the Justice League. Like Martian Manhunter can't even do much.
Right.
And
I was gonna say that would be exciting.
and so I mean, it was good in that sense, but I didn't need to see where this came from. I got the ice cream. I don't need the rock salt and all that.
Right.
I got the ice cream, and so for me, yeah, it was just a good little one shot. Compared to, I guess if I was just picking up Superman, Wonder Woman, I'd been stoked. I mean, like, I got the other half of the story. So
yeah. Sensational Wonder Woman. Did you pick up Sensational Wonder Woman?
No.
This was better than the first issue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that they're tied into each other in any way, other than the fact it has Wonder Woman in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are all digital first, and they're just kind of one-shot out of continuity stories.
Mm-hmm.
The first story has the Psycho Pirate in it, which I always liked that character as a villain. You know, I think he's an interesting villain. I didn't really care for the story, though. It basically has Wonder Woman kind of questioning why she's doing what she's doing, and questioning the gods and a lot of that kind of a thing. A lot of what happens in it doesn't happen in reality. It's all in her head. So that story was, okay. The second story that was in the back actually was a lot. I actually enjoyed it a lot more. It's kind of a origin story of sorts. It's her as a little girl, and the Amazons get their bracers for doing these different feats. One of them basically is you seemingly get one at about puberty age. You're given a bunch of history. You basically go down to this cave that's on Paradise Island, and you have a conversation with a stone statue of the goddess of the hunt. And if you're lucky, you come out of that with one of these bracers as kind of a
badge of honor.
A badge of honor kind of thing. And she does it incredibly gracefully because, of course, she is this, above and beyond typical Amazon. She has this conversation with this goddess like it's no big deal and whatnot, and gets that. And then she's basically told, well, she wants the second one because she only has one. Well, to get the second one, you get that in battle. You have to defeat something in particular to get that one. And because she's the princess, the only thing that she can defeat that's greater than her is her mom. So she's basically been given the challenge. At some point, she has to beat the Queen of the Amazons to get her other bracers. So from that point forward, it's kind of a montage of her growing up, trying to ambush the Queen all the time. And the Queen, it's basically told from the Queen's eyes how she thinks it's amusing, how she's trying to do all this stuff. There's a lot of these kind of cute, her under the bed trying to attack her with a wooden sword. There's all kinds of fun stuff all the way along, and basically getting her butt beat the entire time. And then at some point, she comments the fact that she obviously is becoming a woman. She's bigger, stronger, and better than everybody else. Steve Trevor shows up, and they, she's got him. She goes, look, we shouldn't kill him. We should send him back. We should send in an ambassador. We should do this greater thing. And she's like, okay, well, we'll have a big fight to see who it is that gets to go. She's been forbidden from being in the fight. Of course, she hides herself under armor, and she beats everybody else up, and then has to beat up Mom. And she ultimately does. It's a sweet story. It actually is a fun kind of a telling of that little chunk of history and whatnot. And so that one was good, but it was the shorter of the story. It was like a quarter of the book, and 3/4 of the book were the other one, where it was kind of. I'm just bummed. I'm bummed because the Batmans, when they first started out, they were really exciting and really dynamic. The Supermans were really dynamic. It sounds like they still are. I haven't been reading through of it, but and these haven't been. These haven't been exceptionally exciting or rock star people. These are people I don't even know who these creators are on these books. And so to me, it's just weird. It's like, I mean, if I was suspicious and thought that there was some secret plan going on, I'd think that they didn't care about Wonder Woman, and just were phoning it in because she's part of the Trinity or whatever, and they need to act like they care.
And what bothers me about that is it felt very much like they wanted to control the book in a lot of ways, and kind of where I think if you give someone an out of continuity, out of thing like that, let them go crazy.
Yeah. Go crazy. Well, that's what they did with the Batman. Why they had a Batman where he was dealing with a dragon?
Yeah.
In Gotham.
Yeah.
So go to town. And this is still another issue where they didn't do that. So I don't know how many more of them I'm going to pull, which is unfortunate. Like I said, for me, it was going to be my Wonder Woman alternative because we got another month, and then I think that's going to go incredibly
South.
poorly. Yeah, and so I was hoping this was going to be the alternative, and I wasn't too excited about it. I haven't heard anybody else talking about it, so I don't know what other people thought about it. So if you've read it, and let us know what you think, because I'm curious if I'm just having a higher expectation that I'm going to get something really special, and I need to mellow out, or what. But yeah, the first part of the story wasn't that. It was whatever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Do you have any DC?
Yeah, I got Supergirl.
Okay.
Right on. Let's talk about that.
In it, it's Cyborg Superman and Cyborg Kara. And they've both been working for Brainiac, but they've decided to bust themselves loose. They're going to make new Krypton, so they're trying to find just the perfect race to bring into, like, who can they use. And Kara explains to him, well, the metahumans of Earth are the ones that we should be going to. And they get there and they start fighting, of course, with some group that she used to be with. It looks like, I'm trying to think.
Justice League United?
It doesn't look like, let me see if I can see the names or whatever. It was, they seem to be like the Guardians of the Galaxy of...
The Red Lanterns?
The Legion of Superheroes.
I wonder if that's not it.
Oh.
I mean, they were an unusual group, and...
Yeah, it might be the Red Lanterns, actually.
Here, let me see if I can... This is the group that they're talking about.
Huh.
That she was supposed to be a part of or whatever, and...
Don't really recognize them.
Yeah, and in this one, I mean, she's being controlled by Cyborg Superman. The idea, that they'll make, and I know that's why you jumped off it, Travis. It was her being manipulated. She does start fighting with this other guy who was almost, I want to say, like a El Cid, or he reminded me of the guy who replaced Superman for a while. It was like dark hair, red suit. I think he was in the Phantom Zone for a while.
There's Eradicator, there's Cyborg.
Mon-El, yeah. It looks like him. They don't say Mon-El, but I mean, it's somebody she was evidently in love with for a while. And the Wanderers was the name of the group. It says Captain Comet, the Wanderers.
No idea.
I don't know what any of this is. I like it because of Cyborg Superman. I understand that he was controlling her. It seemed like all the other books where she was just being led around. She still doesn't know who he is before he became Cyborg Superman. She questions that. But as she starts gaining back some memories while fighting these people, she starts tearing off her cyborg bits. She rips off her whole arm. And Cyborg Superman realizes he's lost control. He leaves. And it's about her joining back with the people of Earth and about this group, the Wanderers or whatever. And it's basically, she even says it, I'm going to take over my life now. This is, excuse me, it's been too long that I've been controlled by these other people. So, I mean, it's 5 years later, it's where you wanted the story to go, but even then, it still shows that she's being manipulated right up to the very last point.
So does she go by Supergirl during that, or does she go by 7 of 9?
Yeah. Oh no, they call themselves Herald 1 and Herald 2. They're the heralds of Brainiac.
Right.
Well, see, that's interesting, and that was another problem I kind of had with the Wonder Woman thing, is Superman shows up, and if you're reading Future's End, Superman seems kind of disenchanted with the whole superhero thing. He's working in Africa helping people out, and then he shows up and he's got this new costume and everything like that. And so I wonder, I don't know, Brainiac's kind of on the fringe. It's him versus Frankenstein and Amethyst and Hawkman right now, so I'm wondering how they're tying that together with this.
That's really unfortunate about Supergirl, that continues to plague. I mean, that's ultimately why I quit getting the book, was because she just was always getting victimized by everybody. She was always played for a patsy for 4 issues, and then the 5th issue she'd throw a fit and kind of go off and break free of whatever it was, and then inevitably get herself right back in the same situation with the next thing, telling her that they could bring Krypton back or whatever, and it's just unfortunate.
Really?
I'm really curious because, of course, announced this week, CBS is picking up Supergirl as a ongoing TV show, which is interesting because CBS is one of the few channels that doesn't have the main networks that doesn't have a superhero show yet. So now they've got Supergirl, and I'm really curious as to what kind of story they're going to tell with Supergirl. I'm excited about it. I think it'll be great if they tell good superhero stories, obviously. They can't be anything like the comic book, though. So then I'm wondering if we're going to get the situation where the TV show will slowly change the comic book into something better, because right now I don't know. I'm not reading it now, but last time I read it, I still wasn't very happy with it. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it can't be any worse than any of the Supergirl stuff they've done before. That's all I'll say about that. But do you remember the Birds of Prey TV show by any chance?
Oh yeah, faithfully watched it.
See, I just worry about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's kind of, let's play into the stereotype that they're female, so let's make them be female instead of people. And I always worry about that whenever they have a female lead in a superhero genre. Instead of making her a person, they have her play the female, they have her play the uniform more than the character.
Mm-hmm.
And that always bothers me, and I could totally see her being this just almost flat character. Yeah, hopefully I'm surprised.
Yeah. Well, I guess I have some hope for it because it's not on. I mean, it'll have the CBS cheese. I'm sure it'll fall within the CBS formula of all the CBS shows, but at least it's not a CW show, so it's not going to fall victim to the CW moments that are on all the CW shows. Hopefully. So I don't know. It'll be. I guess I'm somewhat hopeful for it that it'll be.
Yeah.
Good and whatnot. Anyway.
Ignore the bubble.
Yeah. Basically.
Oh, you want to dive into this? Okay.
Multiversity, Society of Superheroes, SOS. Which, of course, it makes it really confusing collecting these things because this is issue 1. They're all issue 1, right? Because they're all like their own book. But obviously, there is a story being told across them, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much we can say between the first issue and this one, there's this, I really like this one. I like this one better than the last one. I kind of felt like the last one was all over the place.
And gave you scope too of what they're doing.
Right.
Which I liked.
Yeah, this one felt like it honed in on what the book is going to do, I think, for us and whatnot. I also loved it because, quite honestly, I love the characters that are in this. I love this version of Dr. Fate was cool. The Black Hawks in here were all the ladies. It was cool. The Atom was cool even. It's got Vandal Savage in it. You can't go wrong with Vandal Savage, right? Whether he's playing a bad guy or a good guy. Got a cool version of Shiva in here, I thought. The art was good. I don't know. I just like the Green Lantern in here was awesome. This is the Green Lantern of this dimension. Yeah, he looks like a devil.
Yeah.
And it's not Hal Jordan. It's
Abin.
Yeah, it's Abin Sewell. So I liked it. I don't know. I just enjoyed it all around. Do we want to talk about what it's getting at, or we think it's getting at? I mean, what kind of story do you think we're telling?
I think overall he's giving a critique of the DC's done this quite a bit, where it's the multi-universes all coming together. He's like, no, every time you see that, these universes almost feel like they go together on a degree. Like they're different, quote unquote, but they also seem kind of like this is completely different art style, completely different storytelling style. It's almost a different genre, if you will. It's very much a noir type. I love that aspect of it. It's almost as if this was taking place in the 50s or early 60s or something like that. And maybe I'm being hopeful. I'm hoping these all kind of collide into one another and they all interact at one point. I think that's what he's heading towards on some level, and it's going to be a real multiversity where it's going to be these different universes versus, I think they had. I'm thinking back to what was the first one they did in the 80s
Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, those all felt like they fit together more than they should, since they're from all these different places. Felt like they kind of could relate. I don't see this relating at all to the other one, and I almost think, how is he going to do this?
I mean, the only relation is there's a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
There's a comic book in this, and it's evil. It's like the most cursed thing in Dr. Fate's entire library. It's like, don't touch it, don't read it, don't do anything with it. It's like the most evil thing. And of course, the comic books played a big key in the first issue as being kind of a roadmap of what's going on in another universe. Is these these things. And the only other thing that really ties in is the fact is that Fate opens a gate towards the end of it to their world's screwed, but maybe they can slip in and warn somebody else before the next bad thing happens. Yeah.
And Vandal Savage essentially figures out that there's a ton of universes out there, and he starts basically on, I'm going to conquer them all.
He's going to pirate and pillage them all. Yep.
Yeah, and I really liked that. What bothers me about these kind of things is it's like, hey, how about you make this a series?
No doubt.
Let's just read this.
Yeah.
Like you're doing great stuff, I'm sure, but let's just stick with this for a little bit. Yeah. I like the idea that it kind of, what was Justice League, the one, New Frontier? Did you read that?
Mm-hmm.
It had that vibe to it a little bit too. I liked that.
Yeah, it had old school. This to me had the vibe of an old school Earth 2 Justice Society.
Yes.
Vibe to it. It had that kind of a little bit of pulpiness. It still had that kind of. It wasn't dumb old school. It wasn't camp, but even the beginning, the opening page has this long, huge chunk of text here, kind of setting things up. It had that kind of a flavor all the way through it, and I missed that. I mean, I was bummed when they canceled.
I also like that essentially explains like how the Tower of Fate was in the middle of nowhere. And that society has grown so much, the city built out to it, and they just discovered it one day, and they're like, well, let's just build around it. And I was like, that's totally what we would do. There's no doors or anything. What is this?
Right.
But, yeah, it was just a fun like adventure comic, and it was so weird because you think, how many issues is this supposed to be altogether?
I don't know. I really don't know, and because it's not numbered, because it's numbered, they're all numbered number one. I just have no. I have no idea, and I don't know. It's 9? I want to say it's 9. If somebody knows in the comment, let us know, and hopefully my comments will refresh, and we'll see. But
Conquerors from Counter World. I like that. And yeah, it just has an old, and maybe it's because I'm in this phase right now where I'm watching like old school TV right now that it's really appealed to me.
And this is Earth. This is Earth 40. See, because on the side of the cover, it has all these circles, and they're numbered 1 through.
This has 20s highlighted too, so that must be where Vandal's from.
That would be my guess, or they're 20 and Vandal's from 40. One of the two. But there's, like I said, there's 52 bubbles there, and I noticed that they're always highlighted differently depending on which one it is. So I'm sure there's somebody who will spend lots of time mapping that all out for us. So
yeah,
us people who got jobs and stuff don't have to.
Yes. But it's just it was fun. That was the thing that as I was reading it, I was having fun reading it.
Yeah.
I can't say that about anything else I've read. Yeah, I think one of the reasons why I'm kind of lighter on Multiversity than other people is I'm going into it without any expectations, really. I'm just saying, let me ride this ride out. I think that's really kind of helped me.
Well, I'm that way now. This book kind of refreshed my faith in it, because the first one, I went in, it's Morrison, he's going to be messing with all this, multiversity stuff and whatnot, and got really wound up in all that, and then it's kind of like, I didn't feel like it delivered what was, what I wanted out of it, because it was just kind of, I see where the bits and pieces all could potentially come together, but it still just felt like a really fractured kind of a crazy mess that, I don't know.
And I even got kind of like, meta on it. I'm like, okay, so in the first issue, they're jumping from universe to universe, and this issue, they're jumping from universe to universe. I'm trying to look for commonalities between them, and that's one of the ones I found. And then the fact that did any heroes from other universes meet each other in this, or was it just
no?
Okay. Oh god. And then who's the Atom guy again?
Brad?
Yeah. I like that his face kind of got melted. And he's like, just give me another mask.
Yeah.
I'll put that on it.
Yeah, because there's the Atom Smasher that had a messed up face.
Yeah.
From the kind of Earth 2 fold and whatnot. So it was cool.
Yeah.
I liked it. I don't know how that plays to a new comic book reader who doesn't have a larger breadth of DC history. I don't know, but
yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're a fan of, like, I would even say Golden Age comics, this is really up your alley.
Yep, that issue was fun. Any other DC books? Which one is that?
Batman and Robin.
Oh, dear God. I saw pictures from it on Twitter. DaCosta was tweeting the
I started getting harsh on it too, but overall I kind of like the idea behind it. The idea behind it is Leviathan, or at least some form of that character, is back, and so he has a new Robin, and he's making him basically go on a wild goose chase so that he doesn't, so Batman deals with this alone. And towards the end he goes, the reason why is I don't want to relive that again. I don't want to see die. And so I liked that concept, but I think they should have saved it for the actual Batman and Robin thing.
Right.
I think that would have done a much better job. Much like, and the reason why I did on Twitter the Tim Drake comparison was that's just when he first came across the Joker after taking on Tim Drake. That was the exact same thing he went through. It was basically, I'm nervous about this because my last Robin, I mean, it was obviously more eloquent than that. My last Robin kind of got fired because of that.
Yeah.
But it's
fired.
Took a dirt nap because of that. So.
He's on vacation, yeah.
Yeah. He retired. But I like the sentiment behind it, but it kind of led me to none of this matters. None of this matters because they probably will tell this story again in some way, shape, or form when maybe it's not Damian, who knows who it is.
Yeah.
But whenever he takes on that next Robin, that's essentially what you're going to get too. So it felt hollow in that sense.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So 6, Multiversity is 6. Wonky Ninja says it is 5 one-shots and then 1 that's going to tie it all together.
Which is going to be $12.
Probably.
Yes.
To fit that much story in, yeah, it's going to be interesting, won't it? So, yeah. Be interesting to see.
So should we?
So other quick DC news. Of course, they greenlit Suicide Squad film. Suicide Squad film's always been kind of kicking around, but they actually named a director.
Really?
The director of this new movie that's out right now, Fury, that's going to be coming out, the Brad Pitt movie, is going to be directing it. So yeah, that'll be interesting. That'll be cool to see exactly what.
Suicide Squad. I just wonder how they're going to do that.
I don't know. I'll go watch it. Unless I start hearing horrific things. Heck, even if I hear horrific things about it, I'll go watch it. If they're going to make it brutal and crazy pants, I'm going to go and see it.
And they can too. Is the thing? No one's married to that. That's like, because the people that are just fans of the film.
The only thing that I think that they might be gingerly about and pussyfoot around with is Harley Quinn. If they have her on the team,
because
she's become so popular. I mean, she's always been popular. Don't get me wrong, but she has just suddenly got this new wave of popularity with her book and whatnot that.
She's one of the top-selling female characters, isn't she? Right now?
You're right. They may be a bit apprehensive about exactly how she's treated. Make her silly and cute as opposed to psychotic and random. So that to me that would be unfortunate because I think she's better off the other way. But that's
instead they could have the Joker's daughter.
That would be weird.
With the voice power.
Right. That'd be fun, actually. But
maybe this is a way for Deathstroke to be brought in. Maybe this is a way for where they thought they couldn't bring them into a movie. To this, they're not gonna make a team.
I guess I'll be curious. That's the other thing I'll be curious about. Who is gonna make up The Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
You know, is it the current comic book? Is it more of the traditional, you know, back when it was like the Bronze Tiger, back when, you know, Ostrom was writing it? You know, I mean, there's.
But don't you think, okay, if you and I were a film studio, wouldn't both of us say, we need someone that everyone knows in
Harley
this?
Quinn. Harley Quinn needs to be in it.
So you think she's enough to, well,
Yes.
I almost stepped into something there. Because I think it's the Wonder Woman syndrome is what I'm getting at. If I'm a big studio and I'm as sexist as they are, do we need a male guy in there that everyone knows?
Well, then that's why I wonder if
Who would that be?
Exactly.
Would they just repeat the Assault on Arkham and make it live action with the idea that you get a little
I would
Batman?
love that. I would love that. Even if it was Batfleck, I would not mind that one bit. I think it would be kind of hard not to bring him up. It's kind of what I'm wondering with the Supergirl TV show. I mean, you cannot just be like, Clark exists somewhere, but you'll never see him. That's why I brought up Birds of Prey. Batman is mentioned, and he's kind of, from what I don't remember, Batman never appears on Birds of Prey, did he?
No.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think personally, I think Harley Quinn's enough. I think they should take that gamble too.
I don't think that she should necessarily be the focus, but I think having her name up there in, you know, as that's gonna pull people in, because she's starting to reach a point where merchandise is being sold to people who have nothing to do with comics whatsoever.
Go to any con too. Go to any con, and I'm talking any con.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Yeah.
But I hope they do, because I think they'll be pleasantly surprised at that a female lead can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they make a Wonder Woman movie and see that people will go see that. And so I wouldn't mind that, but I wouldn't be blown away if Two-Face.
But I don't know villain-wise who you put in there. Two-Face isn't going to draw.
Played by someone big. Like, that's how they would do it, is they'd have it played by Tom Cruise as Two-Face, or something like that. I'm Two-Face.
Oh, no. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I'll be curious about that, who the makeup is. I mean, quite frankly, I guess there's two sides to it. You have somebody really famous play those people, or you get absolute nobodies that can act well and hope that it can sell by word of mouth.
And maybe the success of Guardians of the Galaxy is helping us along too, because I think a lot of people going into that were like, no one's a fan of these guys outside of people that read comics. So maybe that's why this is getting a little bit more of a push now than it.
Yeah,
and
then it'll be curious to see where they take it at. Them being, the Suicide Squad, do they take it dark and grim, or is it going to have more of a laissez-faire? I'm a prisoner and you can blow my head off anytime you want to with the implanted bomb in my cortex, but I'm going to laugh about it because I'm a crazy SOB and it be a lighter. I don't know. We'll see when it actually happens. It still isn't actually
it'll be like 2021 or something.
Right, it isn't being filmed yet, so who knows? So, any other DC news we think we need to talk about?
Gotham starts this week, doesn't it?
You know what? And I'm actually really excited about it. I was on the fence for a while, but I've seen enough commercials for it now that I'm having a hard time not being somewhat giddy about it. So,
I'm just afraid it's gonna be Firefly, in my opinion. I think it's gonna have a niche audience, and they're not gonna. I don't know. I want to watch it. I think it's gonna be good. I'm just not gonna be like, this is gonna be around a long time. I don't think it will be.
No, because of the way it's going to tell a story. It's not, it's going. You're thinking Batman and all that. No, I mean, Bruce Lee's a little kid.
Yeah.
He's not going to grow up like instantaneously. This is going to be the origins of these people. I'm actually kind of curious about that, and I'm not worried about them telling a correct canon origin of Cobblepot. I don't care. I'm just going to be curious to see this what's going to be the Penguin someday.
Yeah.
Weasel his way around the underworld. How is that going to work? I'm curious about that. I'm curious to how that's all going to You know, and I love Gordon. So seeing this kind of early Gordon and him entering this city that is just absolutely corrupt beyond belief, and him trying to wade into it and survive, I'm excited.
That's I was thinking about that the other day, and anytime I've read like an early Batman, early in his career, the character that's always kind of made me interested in it was Gordon.
Mhm.
Always. He's always been kind of the protagonist to me. And so I don't mind that aspect, and if it's Gordon-centric, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I've always felt like he should have his own book, actually, on some level. I wouldn't mind that. You know, give someone like Lemire a few years ago, not now,
Yeah.
that book, and let him go with it.
There have been books that are kind of like that. You know, Gotham Central, for instance.
Yeah.
You know, play with those characters and whatnot more. So I certainly think that they could still run that that kind of a book again really easily, given the right writers to write it, and they could anyway. So yeah.
Well, and even if Fox is scared, I mean, Netflix has already bought the rights to re-air it almost immediately.
Really? That's
Yeah.
actually a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be cool. I'm like I said, I'm excited for it. Hopefully, it will end up being a total turkey. We'll be back next week to talk about that. As far as I'm sure, that'll be part of the conversation, for next week. Let's talk some independent books. I've got a wad full. Where do we want to start at? Did we all get this?
No.
I fell in love with this book.
I love this cover. First and foremost, that cover, the toes and the mouths and the eyeballs, and
I will say this: if you have proclivities to being offended religiously, don't pick this up at all. But
and because I'm not, it didn't really ever occur to me that much that this was like something that might be profane or flying in the face of. But I guess it is.
Dude, he shows up and starts hitting on Mary. Like, legit.
Okay. You're right. This rock-like potato shows up and is like, he's like, hey, Mary, you want to get with me? And Mary's like, well, Joseph. And he's like, I don't want to hear about Joseph.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean,
okay, you're right. You're right. It is a bit.
Yeah. I mean, but it's so funny because it starts out with this kind of humorous thing that cracked me up, but then it started really kind of unfolding this neat universe that you're getting from it, so that you see that this guy can kind of see heaven and hell and things like that, and all the things like that better than anyone else. And so I kind of want to see them explore that further and see where they're going with that. So it drew me in, not even on a joking level, too. It drew me in like, this is going in an interesting direction. Like, I have no idea where it's going to go with this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess because it does start out kind of funny with this kind of blobular thing that ends up being this giant blob of a thing that's the boss of this corporation that seems to be kind of running heaven and hell and purgatory and all that stuff in between. They seem to have this all kind of mapped out. It's on a schedule, and of course this main character Jude is can see it. He can see he can see the wizard behind the screen, behind the curtain, running the wizard, and so he for whatever reason just morally thinks it's wrong that all this machination stuff is going on, and is going to take it upon himself to fix it. And he's kind of enlisting Hemingway to help
Ernest Hemingway.
Ernest Hemingway, after basically, I don't know, what people's opinion of Hemingway is. I mean, I think he's kind of billed as being this kind of brave, machismo kind of a guy, right? I mean, he ran with the bulls, all that kind of stuff. And Jude basically calls him a coward. Basically says you're chicken shit. You're not one to help me. You're chicken. And it's like, whoa, you don't call. And of course, Ernest goes, no, I'm not scared. I'm fully informed. And I know how bad we're gonna get our asses kicked, and it's smarter to keep our heads down. That's called being brave and being smart, kind of a thing. So I enjoyed that too. And
then the idea that you realize that he is a legitimate threat because they're in that office towards the end, and they go, we're going to talk to the other guy. We got to get the other guy in on this too. And you realize that they're speaking of the devil.
Right.
At least that's what I kind of gleaned.
Well,
from
that's
that.
right. The down below, right? And he's they're playing on. I think right now there's a kind of fundamental feeling amongst a lot of us that the corporation's kind of the bad guy and the whole. So you got this corporate bureaucrat who's told God or the equivalent of God, you just chill. I'll take care of it. I'll take care of your son. Let me handle it for you. And he wanders back off to his little cubicle and goes, yeah, we're gonna get the guy downstairs to help us handle this. So you get the feeling that it's somewhat sinister. So they're playing on that that feeling we all have about the corporation and the man right now. So I that works well too.
So then, are they trying to say that anamorphic Blob is God?
They could easily later on be like, no, it's this.
But that's kind of what they're billing it, because you get this opening page, this wonderful purples, there's this crack in the universe, and this it looks like a rock or a spud, kind of a thing comes flying out of it, and it starts talking, and it goes, this is good. It's suddenly like it's just suddenly been created, and then we're in 13.8 billion years ago,
later.
Depending, later, he's cruising along, obviously someplace, and I think it's really curious that Mary is white. And anyway, this flies down. He's like doo 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 doo, sees this chick sitting here on a bench, and he's like, so you come here often, or literally, it's the bar pickup line. Yeah, it's like no, I'm from Galilee, my betrothed. And he's like, oh, I don't want to hear about him.
Yeah.
And then 33 years later, it literally shows the crucifix and whatnot. And then a few years later, it shows the Crusades. And he's like, something needs to fix this crap. And then now it shows current inside that giant blob. He's kind of inside that giant blob of flesh and crap or whatever that is. So I would say that either he's not necessarily, I don't know.
No,
he's an alien force.
What I took away from it is he's essentially that version of the big man, if you will. Like, he came down and he inspired Christianity. But I forgot what it was, either in the last issue or this issue. You get the feeling like, this is basically saying it's one big misunderstanding, but you get the feeling that there's more to this than just that.
Well, and even in this issue, he's like, okay, my first son, kind of did this stuff and said these things, and it caused a whole bunch more wars. It's kind of stemmed this whole. There's a lot. I guess there is quite a bit of finger pointing at religion in this. I guess the more I think about it, because look, it started all these wars, all these problems. So I've been trying to hide the other son. Can we just brain wipe him again? Can we just flush his brains? And no, I think we're past. The corporate guy's like, I think we're past that. I think we're past just mind wiping him and sticking him someplace again, kind of a thing. And so he's kind of like, well, I'm not sure exactly how we're gonna handle it. And that's what the corporate guy says. Just let me take care of it for you. So I love that. That was fun. I thought the beginning of it was hilarious too. You're right though. I can certainly see if you can't look at it as just being a story, kind of looking at stuff, that you could be offended by that. I personally thought it was. I thought it was funny too. So yeah. I'm digging it. I'm excited to keep getting it.
It's a good, fun comic. There's no way around it. But I have to emphasize, there is this story going under it that's heading in a very serious direction.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's got a good mix of both.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure.
Deadly Class, did you get that?
Yes. Start of the new arc.
I think I'm dropping it.
No, really?
I think I am. I like the 80s feel of it. I like a lot of things to it, but I want this book to go somewhere that it's not going, I think. I want to see this character kind of smarten up. I think he's kind of living, up to this point, he's kind of just going with the flow of things and kind of having the adventure happen to him versus him kind of starting to pick up the bootstraps, if you will, and start to become a part of the adventure.
But in this issue, he kind of talks about that, though, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He talks about the fact that he would really kind of like to break out, but he's just too afraid.
Yeah.
You know, he's at that stage in his life where it's like, I got this girlfriend. She's a total psychotic bitch, and I'd really like to get away from her. But at the same time, it's really nice to have somebody show up and go, I love you, and I want to be with you, and I want you. How do I walk away from that?
And we can all relate to that, but...
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes. I could relate to that, but I just felt like, okay, that's what the first arc was supposed to be about to me. It was supposed to be this guy kind of lost, trying to figure himself out, and then he has this crazy adventure kind of thrust upon him.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second act. This is when he's supposed to start to kind of say, okay, now I'm here, and I have to start to take control, or at least start to, you know, if we're looking at this as a quote-unquote Luke Skywalker-esque type hero here, which is kind of what they're trying to do.
Right.
I just didn't
to
feel
progress
that.
at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that's what they do at the beginning of the second act, and it just didn't feel like that. I'll probably pick up the next issue, but I don't know. It wasn't top notch to me, like this book has been up to this point.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't. I liked it. I mean, I see what you're saying about it. It doesn't feel like it's that there's been a progression, that he's progressed in some way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think there's hints of it. I mean, I like I said, I like the fact that they talk about the fact why he hasn't moved, that he feels pretty paralyzed, kind of thing. He as much as there's lots of stuff that's bad, there's these things that are good, and he doesn't want to do anything that tips that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that tips that. I don't know how excited I am over this potential girl fight that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe that's kind of hinted at. Because I want the female characters to have more value to them than to be that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As far as we're going to tell a complete story with decent people, decent. These people aren't decent, but so that's a whole. I think that potentially I'm still enjoying it. I really love the art. I love the paneling of it. I love when we got the narrative, instead of the narrative being in squares, you've got the panels to the inside of the page, narrative to the outside of the page. I like the way it looks as far as that goes. I'm wondering what the deal is with, we got this reoccurring theme of there's this whole group of sexual, I don't know, perverts, the word I want to use or whatnot. You've got our main bad guy, who obviously has got a thing for animals.
Yeah.
You know, and then he's got some stooges that are working for him that obviously, I mean, they sexually take advantage of a guy that they basically murder, right?
Yeah.
That's some pretty creepy stuff. I mean, I guess I appreciate it in the sense that he's not pulling any punches.
Yeah.
But
did you read Sidekick?
No. I read the first 2 issues and didn't like it, so.
Okay. That's the vibe I get from this. Is Sidekick went in this very, let's throw it all out there. Let's go deep as we can, and it felt like it was doing it for the sake of doing it, and that's kind of how I felt with this.
That's what I want to know. I want to know why is it all the bad guys, the quote unquote bad guys? Not that anybody in this is good, to be quite frankly. I mean, they are a school of assassins, and not in a cute kind of way, but in a very deadly sort of way.
Yeah.
Why are all the bad guys sexual deviants? I'll call them that for lack of anything. I don't know what else to call them at this point. But why are they all that? That's I want some sort of justification, not just because they're all foster kids and lived tough lives.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, that's my biggest potential grumble with it. But I love the art and I love the storytelling style of it. I will probably stick with it, despite the fact that this issue did feel like, okay, where are we going to go? And it didn't tell me we're going anywhere in this issue. I agree with you. But I still really like it for the art and the style of it. I'll hang around for a while.
Yeah, I mean,
before I start pondering not getting it.
I think out of his image books that he's doing right now, it's probably third place for me, though. I would say Black Science and Low are far better books. So, I mean, the art's interesting, but if I had to choose between those 3, that would probably be the one I'd chop.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely right now. To me, it's the least of the ones that are out for sure, without a doubt. Yeah.
So, not like that. I'm for November, well, October, November. I have to really be careful with Image because there's
A ton.
yeah.
Yeah, I just ordered my books for November, and I think I just picked up like 4 new Image books.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm leaning towards is which Image books am I gonna let go of?
Right. So then, yeah, that makes sense. I'm trying them all out, and then I'll have to start making decisions as to what I'm really going to keep or not.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about? Did you pick up any new books, Mike?
Yeah, Devlers.
Huh?
I was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They are in hell, and the group is trying to figure out how to get through the maze. They start to explore the Muslim character. Because the atheist in the group is kind of talking with them. It's like, so, isn't it about time for you to pray? And which way is it to Mecca? And
Oh my god.
you know,
Oh, wow.
yeah. Because he goes, well, first off, he says to him, "Do you mind if I ask you an offensive question?" And the guy's like, "Do you mind if I beat you down afterwards?" And then he starts asking him the questions. They explore that the Muslim character, when he was young, his family had somebody in Lebanon shoot up his mosque. And his ability, it seems to be, almost all of them seem to be somewhat devilish.
Yeah.
Because he gets circled in this blue fire, which has like horns and claws, and he decides he's going to try and fly out of the maze, and something squashes him back down. So they convince the Catholic priest to use his power, and it's interesting because he's like, the Catholic priest doesn't want to admit that turning into a demon is his power either.
Wow.
And so as he's standing there, he's attracted the attention of all these demon monsters.
Yeah.
And then he's like, the soul of Christ, sanctify the body. And he goes through a liturgy, and it doesn't do anything. And he's like, uh-oh. And then there's like, 20 times more demons that are now waiting for him. So they smother him. All of a sudden, he comes bursting out of the pile as this giant demon. The Muslim gets him to crash through the wall, and he just starts crashing through wall after wall after wall towards the center, and they follow him. And then as they get to the last one, he turns on the group, and the atheist is like just puts up his hand, and when the demon goes to hit him, it just shatters. And it's very interesting to see how each one interacts with the other, and I think they're going to start exploring each person.
Yeah.
How
many characters are there?
I believe there are 6.
Okay.
There's because it's all the major faiths. It's the India, Judaism, Muslim, Buddhism, Catholic, and then the I'm trying to think if that's it, and then the atheist himself. Mm-hmm. Because all of a sudden God shows up, and you see him up at, he's hovering above this tower, and they're like, well, who is that? And it's Brahma, it's Allah, it's Buddha, it's God himself. And the atheist says, guys, there's nothing there.
Oh, so cool.
It's just interesting to see
cool.
Each of them are tackling all of this from their own perspective. So
that's interesting. So he's in his other book, he's making a
right, because this is written by the same author that did the Life After.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, and I think that's maybe why I dropped the Life After, is it felt like each one seems to be tacking almost on the same idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so because that's the thing, is they're in hell and God's there, and he's like, well, somebody's taken the devil's throne. And so that's what they have to figure out, is who took the throne and what's going on.
See, that's where he's wrong, because the Jew wouldn't be there, because Jews don't believe in hell, so ha!
Yeah.
Except that's interesting, I think he is Jewish.
Yeah.
Not that that matters.
But, go ahead.
Anybody get Sirens?
No.
Oh.
George Perez?
Oh!
This is one of the things that he signed the exclusive with Boom Studio to do. It's six
Nice.
issue
Okay.
miniseries. It comes out bi-monthly, so this is the first issue. The next issue comes out in November, I believe, or something like that.
My shop didn't have that.
Yeah. It was okay. This entire issue is it just feels like you opened up an 80s comic. I mean, everything about it just looks like an 80s comic. There's lots and lots of words and lots of reading amongst. I mean, look at all the word bubbles and stuff. It looks like it looks and feels like an 80s comic as far as that goes, which of course I think is, in my opinion anyway, is his heyday, is George Perez's heyday of books.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, none at all. All female cast. It's basically this first issue. Time jumps all over the place. Gets all these different people from all these different walks of life, whether it be westerns, whether it be space age time, whether it be some sort of medieval fantasy type realm, and draws these sirens together. I guess they've been together before. We kind of get hints at there's some greater evil out there they're going to have to tackle. It wasn't really clear. The art is strong. I think George Perez still draws awesomely. It's interesting some of those ways some of it's drawn. Has an 80s kind of a.
Yeah.
He hasn't listened to some of the political correctness that's out there now as to how you should draw things and whatnot. So I think that's kind of interesting. I mean, there's this gladiator woman in there, and she has appropriate armor in the right places to cover the right things, but it also doesn't leave anything to the imagination either.
And in a real fight, it wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, pretty much so. I mean, quite honestly, she's a gladiator. I wouldn't think she'd be wearing any armor other than the shield and the armor to protect her sword arm. Why would you wear the little bit of bikini that would slow you down? I mean, but whatever. So, but these women, they're written decently. All the women that are in this are all really strong. As far as empowered women and whatnot, none of them are. Well, one character is a victim because she's been caught in prison for a long time, and they're selling her for sex. The prison is selling her out for sex.
Wow.
She's this like, top 10, quote unquote bad guy, but she's like, the hottest woman ever basically, and so the warden, who is a female herself, is selling her out. You want to have a good time. You can do whatever you want to do to her, kind of thing. That was I thought was a bit extreme, but they break her out of that ultimately, and she's the main boss of the sirens. But they're going to go on some adventure to fight some larger evil or whatever. But it was okay. I mean, it's not like super exciting, but it's nice to see George working, I guess.
But
So
you wouldn't say go out and track it down?
No.
Okay.
I wasn't that excited by it. I'm happy to begin. I'm going to get the rest of them, but I wouldn't say, oh my gosh, go out and run and get it. You have a light week and it's there. I wouldn't say don't pick it up, but it was nothing, mind-bending or shattering or so good in any way, but solid. So. Any other indie books?
Yeah, I got Manifest Destiny. Just to touch on it. You see, Sleepy kind of mentioned that we know that Travis would like to see this guy die. He's not doing so well. He's got some bugs and whatnot on him. That led it to be kind of a misdirection. They got people on shore that are fighting these mosquitoes the size of houses, and the other people are still trapped on the boat. They're kind of stuck stationary for a while, and they're doing more character exploration. Sacagawea puts the little prisoner in his place, which was good, but otherwise it's still not progressing. You're learning a little bit more about characters, but they didn't progress anywhere in the last 3 issues, distance-wise. So. It's all right. It's some comics hit that slow spot. I think this is a slow spot.
Yeah.
I guess I just wanted it to be a bigger, grander adventure, and it doesn't seem like it's moving as slow as the actual expedition did. So,
Yeah, a lot of it is about exploring what creatures they're coming across and the monsters, and then they're talking more about the characters, but I think it's just enough for you to care about them, and then they're going to start killing them. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't remember. I tried that book out and it didn't do anything for me, or else I would have totally kept picking it up. But
just also to touch on it real quick, Delinquents is the combination of Quantum and Woody, Archer, and Armstrong. And it is good. It is, and they even kind of mention it in this issue. The two teams are now face to face, so they do the initial fight, then they start to talk. Now they're joined up together, and they're all four going to look for the hobo's treasure using the tattooed ass map that they got. So,
like Waterworld.
Yeah, pretty much so. But I mean, yeah, just fun little buddy comic right there. So.
Except in this comic, you know not to take it serious. So.
Yeah.
Comparison to Waterworld.
You took that serious? Dennis Hopper, and that's about it.
Yeah. Oh man.
Sand.
I've heard good stuff about that book. It sounds like it's a lot of fun. I can't just find it sitting around, so I'll probably look at getting in trades. There's a bunch of Valiant books I want to kind of start scooping in trades, take a look.
It's
I
really
definitely think they'll be great.
Some shops just don't carry that many Valiant books. Feels like. So.
No. I picked up BPRD, Hell on Earth, issue number 23, the Godzilla issue.
Yeah. I have it. Anyway.
I mean,
I read it.
That's really what it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is not typical of this book, really. I mean, the last issue was, hey, this is a great jumping on point. So I think they kind of gave us a really simple story in a sense. I mean, there's some complexities to it. I mean, obviously, was that old guy controlling this thing? Was it him? I mean, you know, that whole aspect of it. But this issue felt dumbed down considerably, and was a monster fight for that. I mean, and so I kind of feel like that's what they did. They went, hey, you know, they've listened to all you people who are going, oh man, I'd like to read BPRD, but there's just no place to jump on it yet because it's so far along. So they gave us a place to just kind of easily consume, you know, 2 issues. So I'm kind of hoping it goes back to what it was dealing with, you know, before this. But this really did feel like a Godzilla.
Well, this in the last issue, as I was reading them, I was thinking, what is this adding necessarily to the overall story? And it didn't feel like it was adding anything really.
It wasn't. It was a jump on point.
And this isn't the kind of comic that you kind of just read for the fun of it. It's really in depth, and you kind of, up to that point, there's several stories being told, and then this felt almost like a complete departure from that.
Yeah. It's not indicative of the series at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, because when I jumped on, I had all these questions, and I think if I would have jumped on now, I probably would have dropped it. I'd been like, this is.
Well, you jumped on when they were in New York, and there was all that stuff like with the Central Park and all the people hanging themselves there and all that kind of
I was
stuff.
Like, whoa!
Right, and then this is, like I said, this was kind of this was literally a Godzilla movie. I mean, it was, you know, all they needed was the little girls standing around going Mothra, Mothra while it was happening, and it would have been perfect, right? I don't know. It just.
Like, have you gotten those cards that have music? You know, when you open them now.
Yeah.
If they would have had dun 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 dun, if you would have done the right page, I'd have been like, yeah, that's actually kind of cool. Get on a DC next year.
Yeah, I mean, and I would have been fine with a monster fight for the sake of a monster fight. That's cool, but it needed to be within the context of the story that's there, and this really wasn't. I mean, they literally created a monster out of nowhere that's not part of what's going on, and had it stomp around for a while in a place that they aren't even really at ever. There's not where they happen to be at.
Yeah.
There was no reason for them to be there other than to tell this jumping on point story.
Obviously, we've read comics long enough that this could lead to something later. But what I felt like they should have done is built what they were doing already around this. So had them kind of experience it and keep building the story and have this going on in the background. Because obviously this is going to lead to something later, but
Yeah.
it felt like it just sprung out of nowhere and didn't really give you anywhere to kind of,
Right.
go with
So,
it.
like I said, I'm hoping they get back to what they were doing, because that's the first issue I have to say that I was not real happy. That was kind of a letdown.
Well,
And
it was one of those ones when you finished reading it, you're like, wait, am I done? What did I just read here? And so, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's all my indie books.
Trees, issue 5, still really liking it. You don't like this book, huh?
Well, no, who's it written by?
Warren Ellis.
I don't know why I didn't pick that up.
And Jason Howard does the artwork on it, and I think the artwork is
I know why I
amazing.
didn't pick it up. I thought it was. I got it confused with the Tinian book. I think is what happened.
Woods.
Yeah.
Which I didn't pick up. But,
I think that's what happened.
Yeah, here's some plants taking over this. This is in Antarctica. These plants have taken over, and this guy is really screwed. But there's like 4 different storylines going on, and they're all kind of tying together now. Woo! But I don't want to talk a whole lot about it.
Well, now that I know it's a different book, then
it's a sci-fi book. It's hardcore sci-fi as far as not hardcore, but I mean definitely sci-fi. And you've got these different groups that are going on doing the things. It's just really cool. I won't go on about it because the show's getting late, and I'm the one that's going to be talking now. But the artwork is fabulous in it. It's kind of a mix. It's kind of a mix of Fabio Moon, Gabriel Bra, and the guy who's doing Deadly Class. It has that a feel, kind of a mix between those two. This isn't as interesting of a cover as most of the covers have been, but
does that tie in with Mother Mogadishu though, or were they attacked one of the trees?
Right, they're landing on one of the trees, and they're actually what they're doing is they're not even going to do anything to the tree. They've landed on the tree. I guess the tree has this. And the tree are these like giant alien things that have just come down and landed all over Earth, and they've been there for like 10 years now. Most people just kind of accept them and ignore them because they don't seem to be doing anything, but they won't go away. You can't communicate with them. They're just kind of like, whatever. But this one tree is actually small enough that they can actually fly aircraft to potentially land on top of it. What it is
they're huge.
Yeah, most of them leave the stratosphere.
Oh.
These columns, and occasionally they'll like flush waste out of them. And if you're downriver from it, you're screwed because it's like totally radioactive and it burns you up or whatever. But like there's like one in the middle of Manhattan. There's like one in the middle of
Antarctica?
Sao Paulo, Brazil. There's one up in Antarctica. That's where the plants are growing at. These like black poppies are growing in Antarctica, and they've actually got like the plants have little electronic fibers in them that are screwing with all the electronics and whatnot. It's like an invasion of plants kind of a thing. But everywhere else, nothing seems to be happening. But this one small one they can land on. But they're whatever they're made out of is so frictionless that they've got all these counterweights on these missile launchers, but they're slowly sliding off anyway. And they figure if they actually shoot anything off of them, it's going to make them fly off even faster. But they're not even attacking this thing. They're actually putting this stuff up there to threaten the country next to them. They're using the trees as a base to invade another country in the Middle East is what they're doing, potentially. Huh. And it's a power play. It's like, I'm so big, I'm such a badass warlord that I can use one of these trees. And most of the world is watching because they want to know, are the trees going to respond to this? Because the trees have not responded to anything. But now they're kind of wondering, well, if we land on one, what's going to happen? So it's interesting. I'm really digging it. I love the characters in it. Like I said, there's like 4 different stories going on, and each one of those people's stories are getting much more complex. The young Chinese person who's gone to this city and has met the transvestites and is the artist and whatnot, he kind of gets involved what seems like in some sort of a wild orgy of some sort. But outside the town, there's all these tanks are zooming at the town as fast as possible. So this kind of hedonistic town he's in could be in for a dire straits to start out with here. the old guy that's going to be supposedly educating this woman in Brazil, he's kind of hinted that he's been kind of watching these trees and the economics that are around these trees, and he seems to have some intention that he's going to mess with the trees in some way. That he thinks he's got some psychology of how he's going to do that, which will be curious. And of course, in Antarctic, you got these black flowers that are like consuming everything that nobody knows is happening. This is because it's Antarctic and secluded. The people can't radio out because the plants are scrambling everything, and so it's interesting. There's a lot of different stuff going on.
How many issues are they in?
5. 5 came out today.
I might be able to track those down. That actually sounds kind of cool. Like,
Yeah.
I even have some theories already, just from what you're telling me. Like, maybe these are things that are going to be used to change the atmosphere, kind of like a classic Alien bit,
Sure.
make it habitable for them. Oh, that sounds actually really interesting.
Right, but I mean, it's got so Scott, like I said, it's got this whole alien thing that's happened. The first issue seemed really heavy sci-fi. These alien things there, they kind of give us these quick glimpses of these places, and then the next couple issues kind of touch more on the human story of a few people that are around some of these trees, and then it kind of jumps back into more of the sci-fi end of it for another issue, and then it kind of pops into a little bit of the human aspect again, kind of thing. So it's been a good mix of all that to keep it all around interesting.
And I like the idea that the aliens don't care about the humans.
They seem to be, well, yeah.
Why would they, though? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
we're just another animal walking around on this planet that they're doing whatever they're doing. I
Right.
like that aspect.
Yeah.
They don't
right. They're not humanizing the aliens. They're not giving them motivation. They're not giving them nothing.
Yeah.
It's all just us, the ants, scrambling around, going, "What the hell?"
Is there a tree on the White House lawn?
No.
Yeah, I liking this. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, the one they showed, that's one of the interesting things. They showed one, like I said, they showed one in New York, and they kind of show a mayor trying to figure out how to handle the tree being there and not causing conflict to kill the people all around it and stuff, as far as like, should we blow it up or whatever kind of a thing. And then they haven't been back to New York at all, which I think is curious. They've touched on the other ones a number of times, the Brazil one, the China one, the one in Antarctica, but they haven't gone back to the New York one. So that's kind of interesting. And then I got this other one that's in the Middle East, in Mogadishu or wherever they're kind of that they've got going on. So it's curious.
That actually sounds like a really interesting book, and now that I'm not...
It's one of my favorite books.
Yeah, and now I'm not reading Moon Knight, I might have something to fill that in. Hey, how many issues has that been? I stopped reading when he was done. Has anyone been reading that?
Moon Knight, 6 came out last week.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard from a lot of people is you were liking it before, it's fine now. It's the same. It has the same kind of vibe to it, I guess. From what I was told is, that if you were worried about it radically changing when that creative team got off the book, that you shouldn't worry about it because it wasn't that radical of a change. I mean, obviously the art's a little different.
Yeah.
Story's a little bit different, but they're keeping with the same kind of a thing. Kind of more of a one-shot kind of a deal or whatnot. So.
Yeah.
Picked up The Wicked and the Divine. I'm still liking it. I won't go into the book in detail.
I did pick that up.
Did you?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, heavily pop cultured. I'm interested in it. You got this whole murder thing that's going on.
Yeah.
It's pretentious, but I like it for the pretentious that it is.
The art. I love the art.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
The Young Avengers guy, right?
Yeah. It's the exact same people who did that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep getting. I like it. I'm interested enough in it. I like the Lucifer character. She finally decides that she's sick of being locked up because no one's gonna help her find who the murderer is and whatnot.
Right.
And screw it, I'm gone. I'm out of here. And so she's walking out. So I'll be curious to see what happens next. Yeah. I like. It's interesting. It's got some interesting premise to it. The whole that they're these gods and they're kind of trying not to make too many waves. They've only got 2 years to live and then they're gonna die, and then in 90 years they come back again. They get reincarnated. Some of the gods do, some of them don't. It sounds like sometimes some of the gods don't feel like being reincarnated the next time around. So everybody's kind of vying to make sure that they're viable, so they're viable for the next time it happens, kind of a thing. And they're kind of worried that the humans actually have more power than what they think they have.
Yeah.
And so some concern if they make too many waves the humans might extinguish them and they might not get to be resurrected. So,
which is weird. I thought I was like, wait a minute. So they're I forget which the character's name is, but there's some people that are just very nonchalant about it. They're like, they almost feel like I'm in, so I don't have to earn my spot. It's an interesting. I wouldn't recommend it to someone that's like, I just want to see action and things like that. It's very, I don't want to say deep. How would you describe it?
I don't know. It's kind of its own thing. It's kind of its own thing. It's these creators. That's their kind of thing. I mean, you can go back to their other Image books of I'm drawing a blank on what they're called now. Phonogram, and I can't. There's two trades of Phonogram or singles if you want to find them in singles. One's Phonogram and the one's Phonogram the Ru Wei or something like that, and it's kind of the same kind of a thing. It's this kind of pop culture-y kind of urban magic almost, but never really truly squarely says this is magic, but kind of plays with that with a bunch of pop culture references and music, and it has the exact same vibe. It's a black and white comic, has the exact same vibe as this. It's their kind of thing, and it's one of those kind of things that you either like it or you don't like it. Either you're willing to go along for the long ride, or you get off of it pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, if you can track down the first issue, get it, read it, and you'll know pretty quickly whether or not this is for you. Because I remember I had no expectations going in, and as I was reading it, I'm like, I don't know anyone that's going to like this. Because I was just, as I was reading it, it's just, I get it, and I'm kind of interested, but you have to be invested. There's no way you're going to just casually read this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And they're looking at 30 to 60 issues.
Whoa.
And they leave it that big of a gap as far as because they it's like we don't know exactly how many side stories we want to tell or different times we want to tell. Like they may jump back and tell us earlier incarnations of these characters. They want the room to be able to do that if they want to. So depending on how it sells and how it's moving and how people are responding to it depends on how.
Yeah.
Because people keep hassling them, is this going to be is this just a miniseries? How long am I going to get this? Is it going to go on for a long time? So they committed to 30 to 60 issues was in the letters column of this
30 to 60, that's a bit of a...
Yeah, right. Who knows?
So if it starts to stink, 30.
Yeah.
All right.
Quickly, I also picked up Shutter number, I think this is 6. Yeah, Shutter number 6. This issue gets really exciting. The book has been kind of crazy pants up to this point, not necessarily a lot of stuff glued together. In this one, the assassins finally catch up with our main character. We still don't know exactly why people want the main character dead, but we find out who it is that wants the main character dead. It's the elder sibling, the eldest daughter that our main character didn't realize she had any siblings, and now the siblings are coming out of the woodwork kind of thing. So there's lots of fighting and action and blood splattering in this one. Pretty exciting, but lots of fun, and has a big old dragon pop out at the end of it that they're going to have to deal with.
Parallax.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. It's fun. I'm enjoying it. I can't imagine that book's going to last for very long.
Yeah.
Because the art is different. It looks like it's all drawn with colored pencils. And not that it's challenging, but it's enough different that I don't know. I don't know. I enjoy it, but it's one of those books I don't know that I'd be going out and telling people to read.
Yeah, that might be an interesting concept about indie comics and the way they're going is maybe they're not going to have a long shelf life, and maybe they're just going to be for niche audiences. Like, if you like this kind of story, we'll make this kind of comic for you. But there's not going to be this wide sweeping. Like, I think Saga might be the last one that was really, like, everyone was into it. But I think now they're kind of going, let's make one for this audience, let's make one for that audience. Not that that's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing.
No. Well, I think it is. I think it's just like music.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there was a time in the early 80s and whatnot, you went to the record store and you're really only going to get record store. That's really dating myself. You're only going to get X number of music. There wasn't that much breadth of music, and then it seemed like by the end of the 80s and rolling into the 90s, suddenly we had, quote unquote alternative, but it ended up being this huge breadth of stuff. And so no one person was selling millions and millions of copies of their work, but there were lots of people selling 20, 30,000 copies of their work, kind of a thing. And I think that you're right. I think comic books are. I think that's where we're moving more to. The right now the market is strong enough to hopefully, fortunately, support a lot of these different stuff. So we're, we have the opportunity to read a lot of different stuff. We aren't stuck with just the big two and whatnot. Hopefully, so
yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah. And the only other thing I picked up was Stray Bullets, and the same thing I always say about it. It's brutal and cool, and you like watching people live miserable lives in the 80s, and people die and use drugs and have sex and whatever.
I didn't need a comic book for that.
That's right. So I've already lived that, but yeah, so it's cool. I like it, but whatever. That's my books. And that's the week, huh?
It was kind of a mediocre week. It was okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
I mean, I didn't really have any. Well, the closest thing I had to a turkey was that BPRD, and it just was lackluster for what I'm used to getting out of that book. Otherwise it wasn't. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Some of them I was pleasantly surprised. I had the expectation that I was still going to be upset with it, and some of those books were good. And yeah.
I think it's all. Yeah, that's everything I have that I've read.
Yeah.
I still have a lot.
Yeah. So I guess we're done for the night. Thank you guys for coming and tuning in. Hopefully we'll have you back next week, and we've all watched like Gotham and whatnot, and we'll make it a point of talking Gotham.
Yeah.
At least that first episode, just to see what we all think of that, and heck, maybe
I'm gonna
I'll
take
even,
notes.
Yeah, are you? Right on.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe I'll even watch the Shield show and whatnot, and we'll have lots to talk about as far as that, and
Yes.
unless the comics are all so good, and then we'll spend a lot of time talking comics. But all right, thank you guys for tuning in. We had quite a few viewers tonight. Appreciate that. And of course, once again, my comments fed for a while, and then about an hour in, it seems like my comment tracker quits tracking. So I apologize for anybody who commented late that I wasn't talking to you. I do try, but technology is working against me. So
yeah.
God bless Google+. But I can't complain too much, because if we didn't have it, we wouldn't have this Hangouts, and
we'd be doing it via Skype.
And that's not nearly as much fun. No. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and have a good evening and the rest of your week in reading comics, and we'll see you next week.